Hi, this is Kevin Knebel, and we're going to spend about 30 minutes on a Twitter training webinar. And this is going to be an overview on how to use Twitter, why Twitter is important, and how to utilize it in your personal and also in your business life. Now, if you're thinking that Twitter is about 13-year-olds and just talking about what they've had for lunch and that type of thing, let me tell you, you're pretty normal. There's a lot of people who have this perception that Twitter is Ashton Kutcher and Oprah Winfrey and celebrities and people like that just talking about inane, stupid things. And if that's what you think Twitter is, you're actually correct. But before you feel too comfortable about that, realize that Twitter in some ways is no different than a telephone. If you were to call up a 13-year-old or Ashton Kutcher or anybody else, you wouldn't get mad at the phone if the conversation really wasn't that fruitful. So it's not really about the phone, it's about the conversation. So Twitter is absolutely worthy of your time, and the only reason I'm starting with this is I want to assure you that the next 30 minutes is absolutely going to be worth your time. And it's not going to be time wasted, it's going to be time well invested. So let's just do a quick background on Twitter. Twitter's been around for about 5 years. Right now there's over 200 million people on Twitter utilizing it, and the number is growing very, very quickly. Almost every Fortune 500 company is already represented on Twitter, along with many, many people in the business world. And using Twitter for lead generation and for business purposes is truly a gold mine when you know how to do it effectively. So just to kind of emphasize that point on Twitter being a news tool or a communication tool, a couple of years ago when the plane landed in the Hudson River in New York, the first responders to that were the people that were already in the river. They were the people that were on the boats that were in the river sightseeing around New York City, and then the plane came in. So the first responders were the ones that were actually on their cell phones on Twitter saying, oh my gosh, there's a plane landing in the Hudson River. Somebody call the police and get some help. Very recently, there was a horrible situation in, I think it was in Norway, where a madman went crazy on an island and started shooting people. And the people that were on the island that were trying to escape this man, they were on their cell phones on Twitter trying to get the authorities, the police, to come and to save them. So Twitter is really a real-time communication tool that's very, very powerful. So just think of it as I often call Twitter global text messaging, because in some ways that's kind of what it is. It's the ability to get a text message all around the world in real time, very, very quickly. So if you've ever text messaged before, you pretty much understand the way Twitter works. So Twitter is a free website. It's a free service that anybody can sign up for. You go to twitter.com, and I'm going to go very quickly, but I'm going to go over, knowing that we only have 30 minutes, I'm going to do a kind of a high-level global training on how to use Twitter. Now, before I do this, let me just make a disclaimer that Twitter is a lot of people saying what's ever on their mind, and there's no filter, and there's no controlling what other people are saying. So as I show this, as you're looking at my screen right now, if you see anything offensive or off color or anything like that, I apologize in advance. It's not my fault. It's just what people on Twitter are saying. And just like a telephone, you're going to see everything from things that are very insightful and interesting and relevant to things that are not insightful, not interesting, not relevant, and sometimes just downright profane. So I'm just going to ask you to have a high degree of tolerance and to not be too easily offended, because the internet, to be quite frank, is in some ways an electronic bathroom wall. So you're going to find all kinds of different things on the internet. So right now you're looking at my Twitter homepage. And the first thing you do when you go to Twitter is you set up a profile. And the profile is how you present yourself to the world. And it's very important because people are moving quickly and they're in a hurry and they don't have a lot of time. So the way that you present yourself to the world is important. It's kind of like that old thing that our parents and our grandparents used to say about you only have one chance to make a first impression. So make the best first impression. So you want to have a good profile. Now, unlike LinkedIn and Facebook, Twitter is very, very short and sweet, and it's all about brevity. It's not about war and peace, it's about being short. So on Twitter, your profile is much, much shorter than it would be on something like Facebook or on LinkedIn. So right now you're looking at my Twitter profile. Number one, you want to have a smiling headshot right there. I wouldn't necessarily put your company logo there unless you're actually representing the company Twitter account. So right now I'm talking about live human accounts, although you could create a company account for your business, and in that case you would have a company logo there, but we're just talking about you as a human being right now. So I would put a smiling headshot there. I would put your first name and your last name. If you have a maiden name, I would put that in parentheses between the first and last name, because Twitter has a search box, like all search engines and like all social media platforms, that if somebody was looking for you and they only knew your maiden name, if they typed your maiden name in there, and if your maiden name was associated with your account, they would find you. So I would make sure that you put that if you're a female and you're married. In here, this is your Twitter name or your Twitter account name or your Twitter handle. It always starts with the @ or the ampersand sign, and then it's after that it's your Twitter account name. For me, I kind of brand myself as Kevin Knebel, first name, last name together. I do it all lowercase. Twitter does not allow you to have spaces between your first name and your last name. So here it's just Kevin Knebel. So if anybody went to Twitter and searched for me and searched for @Kevin Knebel, they would certainly find me. You can also put that where in the world you are geographically, and then you've got about 140 characters or so of space here to explain who you are and what you do. Now realize there's not a lot of space here, so this is not the place for war and peace. It's very short, it's very sweet, and you can always change it later on if you'd like to. So don't feel that you have to get it exactly perfect. You can always modify it on the fly later on if you want to. But I would encourage you to utilize as many of those characters as possible, because it's really valuable real estate to explain who you are. Below that, you have one opportunity to put a website on there. So I have my own website for me and my business. If you don't have your own website, I would encourage you to think about putting your LinkedIn public profile URL so that people could see your LinkedIn account and learn more about who you are. And that right there is what's at the top of your Twitter account, your bio. That's it. Now, once you do that, you're going to want to start connecting with people on Twitter. So here we go to who to follow. And who to follow, before we get into view suggestions, let's go to find friends first. And Twitter integrates with your existing email accounts and other things. So here I have a Gmail account. I could hit search contacts here, and I could reconcile all the email addresses in my Gmail email address book versus all the email addresses associated with Twitter accounts worldwide, and it would come back with an alphabetical list of all those people, and I could select which of those people I would want to connect with and which of those people I would not want to connect with. I could do the same thing with Yahoo, Hotmail, AOL, LinkedIn, so there are ways to find people through your existing email accounts and other social media platforms. And also, you could do it by just typing a name. If I typed in somebody's name and hit search, I could look for it that way too. I could also do it by inviting friends. So here I could invite people that are not on Twitter, put in their email address, send them an email inviting them to join me on Twitter. I could also browse interests. So Twitter just comes up with some standard things such as art and design, books, business, entertainment. And if I click on these and hit view all, let's say I wanted to look under entertainment and I click view all, it's going to pull up everything from Tracy Morgan, a comedian, to Bob Saget, to Kim Kardashian, and all kinds of different people. So they're just making suggestions here. And they have it in a number of different categories. And then they have here view suggestions, and basically all of these social media platforms like Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, they're all running very sophisticated computer algorithms in the background. And based on the people that I'm already following, Twitter is actually making suggestions here as to who else I might see some value in following. So it might be just kind of fun to see who they're suggesting and take a look at that. So we looked at the profile. Now, let's just talk about what Twitter is in terms of how to actually use it functionally. It's really quite simple. When I go to my home page on Twitter, when I go to here, hang on one second here, let's click on that one more time. Here we go. Okay, so here you can type a message up to 140 characters maximum. So if you'll see this 140 here, if I start typing letters, you see those numbers going down. So there's no war and peace, like I said earlier. It's all about brevity. It's all about keeping it short and sweet, and it's telling me how many characters I have left until I run out of characters. So I would never send this out, but if I wanted to, I could hit tweet, and that 140 character message or 140 character or less message is referred to as a tweet. Yes, there's a lot of strange verbiage in social media, but that's called a tweet. So if somebody says, hey, I really like your tweets, they're not trying to be dirty or anything like that. They're just saying that they like what you're talking about on Twitter. So when you take a message like this and you tweet it out, that message is going to go out and it's going to be seen by anybody on Twitter that either searches for you or anybody that's following you. So let's describe what following means. On Twitter, you follow people and people follow you. Now, this in no way means that they're stalking you. Stalking is about trying to find out something about somebody they don't want you to know about them. On social media platforms, I often say that common sense is the most uncommon thing in the world. And let's just agree that if you don't want somebody to know something, you shouldn't put it on your profile, or you shouldn't tweet it, or you shouldn't put it on your LinkedIn status update, or you shouldn't put it on your wall on Facebook. This is just common sense. But again, common sense is not the most common thing. So before you post anything, always ask yourself, am I okay with everybody and their brother knowing what I'm about to post? If you're not, here comes a major shocker. Don't post it. It's as simple as that, folks. So here, I am following 2,938 people. Now, if you're new to Twitter, that might sound like a humongously large number. But believe me, there are people on Twitter that follow many, many more, hundreds of thousands, if not millions more than that. I've got 3,428 people that are following me. So there's a disparity between these numbers, but it's not a big deal. But if you wanted to, you could see who I'm following, and you could see who's following me. Twitter is in some ways one of the most, if not the most, transparent of social media platforms. You can see this about almost anybody, which is pretty amazing, and there's a lot of ramifications for that in terms of digging into data and doing market research and really using it for sales, lead generation, branding, marketing purposes. There's a lot of things you could do. So if I were to hit tweet right now, this message would go out to Twitter, and these 3,428 people that are following me, if they were logged on to Twitter right now, they would see this nonsensical message, this nonsensical tweet, show up in their news feed. So right now you're looking at my news feed. You can see 3 minutes ago, Magnetic Silva, whose real name is Sylvia Penchak, she posted this a few minutes ago, and it was the most current thing at the time when I hit this screen. Since I hit this screen, 39 new tweets have showed up. I could hit this and it would show me all 39, now 43. That's what happens when you're following thousands of people. It becomes almost a nonstop barrage of information, and I'll show you how to kind of navigate through some of that and make sense of that in a few moments. So just the recap there is when you tweet something, your followers can see that in their news feed, or anybody on Twitter could see it if they did a search on your name. So I'm not going to send that because it makes no sense whatsoever. If I hit refresh or I hit the home button, this is actually showing me all of the new updated tweets up to just a couple of seconds ago, 27 seconds ago. So you follow people, people follow you. As simple as that. People can see what you're posting. You can see I've posted 6,031 tweets since the day I signed up on Twitter, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. So if you wanted to, you could click on that and you could see every one of those tweets in real chronological order. 54 minutes ago, I posted a quote that I came up with. I come up with a lot of quotes. And you can track that back. If you felt so inclined, you could see back in time, back to my very first tweet. keep that in mind, because as you're learning about people and who they are and what they do and who might be a good business reference for you or a lead source or something like that, there's a lot of ways that you could be doing that, and it could really help you out. So you got the basic understanding of you send out tweets up to 140 character maximum. You follow people, people follow you. Now, when you start to follow people, if you're following a tremendous number of people, that can become somewhat overwhelming to digest, and you may want to segment that into lists. So, I'll give you an example. Let's say I go to my followers, and these are the people that are following me, and every day I do this. I go in here every day, it only takes a minute or two, and I see who are the newest people that are following me, with the newest person will always be shown at the top of the list. So if you literally scrolled all the way down back to my 3,427 followers, if you scrolled all the way down, you would go back to the very first person, because it's all in chronological order. So I can see here that this is fan PG evangelist, somebody named Will Hall. So what I do is I click on this, and it pulls over here a shortened version of this person. If I wanted to see their entire profile, I could click on this, open up their whole profile, start to read all of their 435 tweets, or some of them, to determine if this is somebody that I want to follow back, or maybe it's somebody I don't want to follow back. Well, let's just, for the sake of this webinar, let's say I want to follow this person. So I'm going to click on follow, and now whenever they post something on Twitter, it's going to show up in my news feed. But knowing that they're a social media person, I already have a list called social media people that maybe I should put them in that list. So here, I click on this, I go to add to list, and I put them into my social media folks list. And I click close. And now, if I go back to my home page, and I go to my lists, and I go to see all of my lists, and I click on social media folks, it's only going to show the tweets of the people that I've segmented, which are 139 people that I've put into my social media folks list. So follow me on this. This is a very useful way to just cut through a lot of the clutter on Twitter to identify either people by, you could do this by industry, you could do it, maybe you're tracking your competition. You can create a list of your competition. You could do a list of things that you have hobbies about. You could do a list of your peers. You could do a list of all kinds of different, I mean, you're only really limited by your imagination here as to how you would segment these lists. So here you can see I've got numerous lists. You can also make the list public or make them private, so that people can actually go and they look at your Twitter account and they look at your profile, they can see what lists you've created, and they can see who's in those lists if you've made all that public. And here you can see I've got one new tweet since the couple of seconds ago when I clicked on this. Somebody in my social media folks list just created a new tweet, and that now goes into there, and it goes into my list. So I hope that makes sense. Now, I go here, when I go back to, not messages, when I go back to my followers, I do this on a daily basis, and I determine who I would like to follow and who I would not like to follow. Understand that on Twitter, there's a lot of, sometimes people that maybe you don't want to follow back. Don't worry about, boy, if I don't follow somebody back, I'm going to make them mad or something like that. Really follow who you see value in following and just go from there. We could talk for hours about the ramifications of the nuances of this, that, and the other thing, but this is just a high-level overview on how to use Twitter most effectively, not all the sub-nuances. So here I'll do the same thing with this one here. I can see this person here is following 563 people, 32 people are following them, and they have never sent out one message, which leads me to believe that maybe this is what's called a spam bot, or a bot, which is just a computer program that's trolling through Twitter trying to gather followers, and this is spam. So let me show you how I can get rid of this. If I click here and I say block, now that person can no longer communicate with me or follow me or anything else when I refresh the screen. They are blocked. And after doing this, and after you do this for a while, you're going to start to figure this out, that there are some people that are real life human beings, like this person here, and then there's going to be other things like this Ela Barley or whatever it is that are just bots. And over time, you'll figure this out, and it really doesn't become very difficult to figure out. Now, when I go back to my home page, let's see I see something that's interesting here. Here I can see that this person here, let's just say, it's okay to fail, it happens to everybody. Here's QJ Inspiration, who sent out this tweet 10 seconds ago. And if I want to click on this, they actually added a link to this tweet. And let's click on the link. When we click on the link, it's going to take me to whatever website they wanted me to see. And more than likely, it's probably their blog post. So here I can see that people can actually add links. But let's say I want to find something here and I want to send it out to my followers. Give me a quick second here because I'm trying to read this as I'm talking with you. So here, Google versus Facebook. So I'm going to say, let's say I see value in this and I want to send this out to my followers. The retweet button right here, if I click retweet, it's saying, do I want to retweet this to my followers? And my answer is yes. And I hit retweet, and it now takes that message, adds at Dr. Henslin to the beginning of it, and sends it out to my followers. So there's huge value in that, because if you're posting interesting, valuable content, people are going to start to retweet that out to their followers, which will help you organically grow a larger following by posting valuable information. An example of that would be right here. I follow Randall Orser, who goes by Number Crunchers on Twitter. He must be following somebody named at 24 Hours Van. Well, he must have seen this interestingly enough that he retweeted it out to his followers and added the comment, wow. And his followers, of course, include me. So here, by looking at this, I can see, oh, Randall saw value in at 24 Hours Van's tweet, and I could just, if I wanted to, click on, well, who's this at 24 Hours Van? And I could see this and go, oh, maybe this is something I'd be interested in following too. And I could click follow, and if I wanted to, I could put them into a list. So really what I want you to take away from that little explanation there is that by using Twitter, you're going to find some golden nuggets. You're going to find some people that you never would have found otherwise. And it's going to really amaze you how deep that rabbit hole could really go. And you're going to kind of find that as the world gets smaller through the use of things like social media, you're going to be able to find more value out there. And by extension, you're going to be able to add more value out there because people are going to be reading what you're posting. And there's never been a better time for you to position yourself as a value generator. I wrote a book on this subject called the Social Media Sales Revolution. Actually, McGraw-Hill asked me to co-author this book, which I did. Came out a couple of months ago, about a 250 or so page book on how to use social media as a small business person or as a salesperson without being perceived as a stalker, a spammer, or a pest. It's designed to just take about 15 minutes or so a day to use these tools most effectively. But one of the things that I want you to think about is that as the world gets smaller and as more and more people are starting to utilize these technologies, you've never been in a better position to position yourself as a value generator. And knowing that most people are running Mach 5 with their receding hairlines on fire, and in a more and more interconnected, hyper-competitive, over-caffeinated, 24/7, 365 kind of world, you want to be adding value on a daily basis because it will grow your influence. And the old, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People kind of thing is actually more relevant now than it's ever been before. So it's really about positioning yourself as a value generator. So I've got one eye on the clock. I know I've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left. So let's just kind of recap and go through some of this again real quickly. Here is Twitter. I can search for anything I want on Twitter. If I wanted to find, let's say, Colorado jobs, I could type that, I could hit search, and it's going to pull up every person that has the words Colorado and jobs in a tweet, and I can just drill down into these and see job descriptions. Matter of fact, my record for helping somebody find a job on Twitter is about 8 minutes. And that's kind of important to know in an economy where people are really struggling and they're having difficulty and they're trying to find work and things like that. Most people never think of Twitter as a place to go and find a job. I found somebody a job in about 8 minutes in a specialized industry. It wasn't just a generic type of job flipping burgers. It was a very specialized job, but they had never thought about using Twitter as a job search tool. And here, if I wanted to, I could click on Job Denver, and I could see that all this person is doing is sending out job descriptions. And of course, I could refine this search as much as I want. I could follow this person. I could add it to a Colorado jobs list. And I could use this as a tool so that while I'm busy going about my day, Twitter is working for me behind the scenes, and it's putting these things and segmenting them into my already predefined lists. So I know I'm throwing a lot at you real quick, but just in 30 minutes, there's a lot to kind of cover, but hopefully this is giving you a pretty good understanding of how to utilize Twitter most effectively. Now, as I wrap up, know that right now, Twitter is a great tool, but there are other websites that integrate with Twitter that make Twitter even more robust and more exciting. When I have more time, I go far, far deeper into depth in terms of how to use these other websites and integrate them with your Twitter account so that you're really accomplishing much, much more than you could just with Twitter alone. I know that might sound a little weird. Sometimes I refer to Twitter as a Mercedes-Benz with square tires, which means that at first you learn how to ride the Mercedes and the ride is kind of bumpy, but over time you start to learn about round tires and it makes your Twitter experience much, much more effective and much more exciting. But just for this webinar, I'm just covering Twitter, and then in the future you'll be able to learn more through my training programs and through my services. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you have a better understanding that Twitter is worth your time. It's a great way to communicate with people. It's a great way to do due diligence on anything under the sun that you want to do due diligence on. It's a great way to keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening right now up to the second. It's a great way to communicate and to add value and to increase the visibility of you, your business, your services, whatever. And at the end of the day, it's really a lot of fun too. It's just a great communication tool. You can integrate Twitter into your iPhone or your Android or your BlackBerry or whatever. You can do it on the run, and it's a great communication tool. So I hope you've seen value in this. Please feel free to visit my website at kevinknebel.com. That's Kevin Knebel, and I'll just type it here, www.kevinknebel.com. You can also sign up for my newsletter at my website, which gives tips on how to most effectively use Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, online and offline networking, and at the end of the day, relationship building skills and techniques. Because if there's one thing that's true, it's this. All things being equal, people do business with and refer business to people who they know, like, and trust. Everything you're doing on Twitter, always ask yourself, is this leading to a know, like, trust relationship? If it is, do it. If it's not, don't do it. It's as simple as that. It's not about spamming. Signing off from beautiful Monument, Colorado. I hope this was helpful, and I'd love to connect with you on Twitter. Have a great day.